Welcome back. In this session, we're going to draw the three animals, the tiger, the monkey, and the giraffe, into our Henri Rousseau picture. In our last session, we drew in the trees, okay, and we didn't do the big side trees yet. We're going to do that last. The reason why I'm going to just be drawing these three animals down here is we're going to put the bird up on this tree later. So I'll have the bird as part of that tree session when we do the side trees. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to start with the monkey. All right, and in the interest of trying to get this to look a little better, I'm going to zoom in so you can kind of see it. It's going to fix itself there. What we do is we started with a V shape, like that. And I'm just going to draw a circle for his face and an oval for his body, like that. Okay, then I'm going to use my eraser and just erase these lines back here, the little V. Alright, then we did a line all the way from this branch. We kind of shot it right diagonally down here to the circle and then bumped it around his belly. And then once we got here, we did a zigzag. Zigzag, like that. Then we did the same thing on this side. We did a kind of diagonal line right down towards his belly, around the belly. And then when we got here, we did a zigzag for his knee and then his foot. All right. Then to fill in his legs, we started here. We did a zigzag, and we said you could do some little zigzags in for his toe. Zigzag around here. Okay. Then we talked about the face, and we said the face kind of looks like a piece of bread, like that shape. And then we did two eyes. 1, 2. We did a curvy line for his nose, like a U shape. And then we did like a little curvy W shape like that and colored it in like that for his mouth. Okay, oops, let's put the little pupils on so he doesn't look too crazy. All right, and then we talked about the three little W curves like that for his fingers there, and the three little W curves for his fingers like that. Okay, so there's our monkey. Next, we're going to move on to the tiger. Now, the tiger, if I pull him back in here, notice that he's kind of hiding underneath this banana tree, and he's kind of hiding underneath this side tree. So I'm going to start his face right here next to my banana tree. So locate somewhere on your picture where you can fill him in and kind of hide him behind some other tree. All right, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with that big oval. We said you were going to start with an oval, or sorry, a circle. So there's a circle for his head. And then we had an oval kind of like this that went up to about where the tip of his nose, like not the tip, the bridge of his nose would be about right here. And then we did a curved line here for the bottom of his jaw. Okay, and then from there we said about right here, you're going to go right above the middle and you're going to kind of curve it down and back up like that for his front of his upper lip. Curve it down and back up for the front of his lip, and then you're going to erase that little line in there. Okay, and then we said you're going to put in a little tiger teeth like that. Now, in the previous video, I shaded that in, but since we're going to be painting over this, we'll paint that in later. Okay, then we said from right here, you're just going to do like a little triangle line up, up, and a triangle over the top for his nose. All right, and that inside here, you could put some little nostrils. And then from here up, you're going to draw kind of a little curved triangle up like that for his nose, up to the top of that oval. All right. From there, we talked about his eyes. saying that his eyes were kind of like footballs turned on the side. So I'm going to start with one right here and turn a football shape like that on its side. And then from here, football shape on its side, like that. Okay, then we said the circle for his eye is like that, and the black part is kind of straight up and down. A circle for the colored part, and a line kind of straight up and down, like that. And then we talked about his ears being right off the side of his eyes. And we said it was an oval and another oval inside. And then an oval and another oval inside, like that. Now at this point, I'm going to erase this line and this line so that we get that out of the way and we just see his nose, because we want to start putting in his whiskers and some of his zigzag markings on there. So I'm just going to erase those. All right. And now we kind of have that tiger head. All right. One last thing before we move away from his head, I want to put the curved kind of V shape in like that. Remember, we looked at his skull and decided that his skull was not really a circle, but that up there at the top it had a little bump where his head is. Then we said his head is going to come right out the side here, go behind his ear, and it would like curve up and then curve down and then go around for his back over here. But I'm going to leave that part out because we're going to put a tree in there later. So I'm just going to make sure I have his neck there. And then his arm, or not his arm, his leg is going to come right down here. His other leg would be behind here. And then his back legs would be over here. But I'm going to, again, put that other tree right here. So we're going to leave that part out. I'm also going to leave those kind of dotted line parts out because they're overlapped behind that tree. So there's our tiger's head. I'm going to bring this down a little farther, and actually we're going to put our big leaves up here. So you can see on this one I don't even have his leg in there because his leg is behind this tree, but I do have some of his body in there, so I might have to add the body later, but for now we're just going to stick with the head. The last thing I'm going to add on here is, remember we looked at the sides of his cheeks and we saw that they were kind of shaggy, so I'm just going to lightly erase these lines where the sides of his cheeks are, and I'm going to do a little zigzag line right here for like the shaggy side of his cheek, and I'll do a little zigzag line here for like the saggy side of his cheek, and then I'm going to put some whiskers in just so I remember to put them in later and I know where they are. Okay, and that's about what we want for our tiger. Now, when we do the zigzag patterns, okay, and you can look at these zigzag patterns here, I did this with a Sharpie after I painted. So after we get done painting, we'll put those zigzag patterns on that day when we do the final Sharpieing of our picture. Okay, so that being said, that's our tiger, and we want to leave him just like that. Now we want to find a place to put our giraffe. So I'm going to just kind of slide my picture over here and scan through where I can put my giraffe. And I'm going to say that I'm going to put my giraffe, I didn't really leave myself a lot of room. So I'm going to put my giraffe here. I'm going to turn his head that way and kind of overlap him in front of my palm tree. Okay, so remember with our giraffe, we're going to put him kind of his main body like about right here and put his head going that way. And I'm going to actually have to zoom out just a bit so we can get the whole thing working in there. So right here, I'm going to turn my giraffe to the other side. Now when we did the drawing, it looked something like that. Okay, so we're going to lose his feet, but we want to make sure we have his legs in there really nicely. Remember we said we were going to have a triangle shape, kind of like that. So it's like a triangle with the edges kind of curved off. Okay, then we said we want to have the head a little bit over to the side of where the body was. Okay, now if you've got it flipped around, because if that's how it works for your picture, then make sure you've got the head on the right side. Okay, and if I look back at this example, I did it differently. I did it with the head pointing to the right, and this time I'm doing it with the head pointing to the left. So you can do it either way. Then from here we said we were going to take a curved line from his head and bring it down right to the top of his back like that. And the curved line from here kind of right below the circle, and curve it in and bring it in right about where the chest is. And at this point I'm going to take my eraser and I want to erase the top of this triangle, and I'm going to erase part of this tree here too, so that we don't get too confused. Now notice we're forcing ourselves to overlap here, which is great. Overlapping is going to give our picture a really cool look. Oops, don't forget the circle up here. So there's kind of my giraffe head and body together. Now I'm going to put some little circles right down here for his knees for us to kind of aim towards. And remember we said his knees are going to, we're going to take a diagonal line from his chest here right down to the knee, and then bump out around the knee, and then straight line down. From here, a diagonal line down to the knee, bump out around it, and straight down. Then the back knee, right down to the circle, bump around it and down. From here about the, over a little bit there, diagonal line down, bump out around it and down. So there's our two front legs, or the legs that are like towards our side. Now we're going to draw the ones behind there, and what we did is we started about here and we drew a parallel line around here like that, and then same thing for the back. We started here and drew a parallel line around like that. Now we don't see the feet because they're below these grasses that are going to be in the front. Then we took a curved line from here down and up to kind of make his belly, and so I'm going to just erase that line like that, and I'm going to erase these leg lines that went a little too high, and I'm going to erase these lines that are in his legs now. Okay, now I'm just going to redefine the little pieces that I accidentally erased over. Good. And so there you can see the bottom of our giraffe. Now I want to work on the head. And the head, remember we said was going to have kind of a diagonal line about here, a diagonal line and a little bump, and then a straight line back. And that then his bottom jaw was just a curved line, kind of like that. Then we had an eye about right here, and then up on the top we had those two little almost like antenna things that were kind of straight lines with a little circle on the top, straight line with a little circle on the top. Okay, and then we said he had like a mane, almost like a horse's mane. It was kind of fuzzy right down his back, pretty much all the way down to about the middle of his back right there. And then he had a tail that came off right by the curved part of the original triangle, and it kind of came down halfway like this. And then it had fuzz, or like hair, on the end of it so that he could swat the flies off of him. Okay? Then the last detail part for him was the pentagons. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do some pentagons. Remember, they're five-sided shapes, so we'll start with one there. And then we noticed that none of them were very regular, that they all just kind of had to work and fit together inside of his body, and that the biggest ones were, on his back and on his belly. And then as they got down his legs, they got smaller and smaller and smaller. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of fill these in. And right now, I want you to fill them in around yours as well. Okay, and as you're working, I want you to make sure they get smaller as you get up to the top of his head and smaller as you get down to the back. We want to have nicely defined shapes here so that when we get to the painting part, we don't have to think about our shapes, and we can kind of just fill in the shapes. Okay, and we'll be able to see these a little bit right as our painting, as we start painting. We'll be able to see these through the painting. Okay. Okay, so there's the finished picture with those 3 animals, and I'll just zoom out a little bit so you can kind of see those 3 all together. So there's the 3 animals, and if we look back at the beginning here, you'll see we're gonna, in the next session, we'll do these dark trees on the side, and we'll add that bird in. Okay. I also didn't mention, I forgot the oranges in my tree last time. So at the end, after we get done doing those side trees, I'll add those oranges in. Okay? And that concludes the 3 animals, giraffe, monkey, and tiger for our Henri Rousseau picture.